Decoded.
Welcome to Book Decoded. Okay, get ready, because today we are diving headfirst into a truly fascinating book.
We are indeed. It's packed with wisdom, surprisingly practical stuff, actually.
It really is. We're talking about Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
Now, you might think, oh, Roman emperor philosophy sounds heavy, but this is different.
It really is. It's like his personal playbook, isn't it? A leader, maybe the leader, just trying to figure out life.
Something to how to stay sane, just like the rest of us. You know?
Exactly. Imagine carrying the weight of, well, the Roman Empire, dealing with crises constantly.
Right. Constant pressure.
And yet here he is, taking moments to jot down thoughts on living well, managing his own mind, handling whatever life threw at him.
It's amazing. Ever wonder what's really going on inside the head of someone with that much power? When they're just, like, trying to be decent.
Well, Marcus basically wrote it down for us, or more accurately for himself.
And here's the kicker, the really cool part.
Yeah.
This guy, often called the philosopher king.
Yeah, the ideal ruler.
He didn't even see himself that way. He thought of himself as just a student, always learning. How relatable is that?
Oh, completely. It changes how you read Meditations, doesn't it? These aren't grand pronouncements from on high.
Not lectures, no.
They're reminders, personal notes, someone figuring things out, just, with a slightly more demanding job than most.
Okay, so Emperor Marcus Aurelius. You picture someone born into it, right? Destined for the throne. But his story's got some twists.
It really does. I mean, his family wasn't exactly unknown. His grandfather was a consul, high status. But him becoming emperor, not a guarantee at all.
How so?
Well, his father died when he was young. He was raised mostly by his grandfather. And then there's this whole chain of events. Emperor Hadrian, he didn't have children.
Oh, the succession issue.
Right. So Hadrian adopts a successor, but then he dies unexpectedly. So Hadrian pivots, adopts Antoninus Pius.
Okay.
But with the condition that Antoninus has to adopt Marcus and another young man, Lucius Verus.
Wow. Talk about a complex rate to power. It's almost like fate pushed him there.
It really feels that way. And it's ironic, isn't it? The person who seems genuinely drawn to philosophy, to quiet study.
Ends up in the most high-pressure job in the world.
Precisely. And you see that inclination in his education. He had the best tutors, naturally, rhetoric experts like Herodes Atticus and Fronto.
Fronto. Wasn't he a bit unhappy about Marcus getting into philosophy?
That's the story, yeah. Fronto apparently wished Marcus would stick to rhetoric, the art of persuasion. More practical, perhaps, he thought.
Which tells you where Marcus's real passion was heading.
Definitely. And when you read Meditations, you really feel that. It's a collection of lessons, not just from books, but from, well, everyone, life itself.
You really see that in the first book, don't you?
Absolutely. Book 1 is basically a series of acknowledgments. It's him thanking the people who influenced him, naming the specific qualities he learned from each.
It's like a roadmap to his values. He mentions his grandfather learning self-control, character.
His mother, too, for piety and simplicity. Sextus, a philosopher, for kindness and understanding life principles.
Even Fronto gets a mention, teaching him about the downsides of tyranny, the masks people wear. It's so personal.
And it shows he valued learning everywhere, not just the classroom. He mentions Junius Rusticus, a Stoic politician who kind of mentored him in practical affairs, in navigating that world, learning by doing, by watching.
So this thoughtful student becomes emperor. How did that actually work out? Did his philosophy dramatically change how he ruled day to day?
That's the big question, isn't it? We have this image of the philosopher king maybe revolutionizing everything.
But reality is messier.
Much messier. Governing Rome wasn't about sitting and thinking deep thoughts all day. It was admin, dealing with embassies, legal appeals, information traveling incredibly slowly across the empire.
So endless paperwork and meetings, basically. Sounds familiar?
Huh. Probably a lot of that, yeah. But we do see hints of his values in some surviving laws. Things about freeing slaves, protecting orphans. These align with Stoic ideas of justice, of our shared humanity.
So his principles likely guided his decisions, even if we can't trace every single law back to him personally.
It seems likely, yes. It's hard to know the exact extent of his personal push on every issue, but the direction seems consistent.
And I read somewhere about the language used in official documents during his reign. Something about being very precise.
Yes. There's this noted scrupulous attention to detail and a self-consciousness about linguistic usage. You can always feel his training, maybe Fronto's influence too, demanding clarity and careful thought, even in bureaucracy.
That philosophical mindset showing through.
Exactly. It suggests someone who valued precision in thought and word, which of course is all over Meditations.
But his reign wasn't peaceful, was it? It sounds like he was dealing with constant crises.
Oh, absolutely relentless. It wasn't just internal admin. There was the ongoing sort of Cold War with Parthia in the east, which flared into actual war early on.
Okay, a major conflict.
And then a devastating plague. Probably smallpox or measles. The troops brought it back from the Parthian campaign, and it just swept through the empire. Huge death toll.
Wow. War and plague.
And on top of that, increasing pressure on the northern frontiers, the Danube border, various Germanic tribes, the Marcomanni, the Quadi, causing major instability.
Those are the Marcomannic Wars, right? It sounds like a different kind of fighting.
Very different from Parthia. Less set-piece battles, more difficult, grinding warfare against tribes using less conventional tactics. It dragged on for years.
Must have been brutal.
You get a sense of it in Meditations, some grim imagery. He has that line, spiders are proud of catching flies, men of catching hares, boars, bears, Sarmatians. It's a stark comparison, maybe reflecting the grimness he saw.
Capturing enemies like animals. That's dark.
It probably reflects the harsh reality of those campaigns on the frontier, which he spent years overseeing personally.
And as if that wasn't enough, there was a rebellion too.
Yes. Avidius Cassius, a successful general in the East, declared himself emperor, a huge threat of civil war.
How did that end?
Cassius was assassinated by one of his own officers fairly quickly, actually, so the civil war was averted. But imagine the stress, the uncertainty for Marcus.
Just one thing after another. It sounds exhausting.
It really does seem like a reign defined by constant struggle. And then, sadly, his successor was his son, Commodus.
Yeah, history hasn't been kind to Commodus.
No. His rule is often seen as a stark contrast, a kind of dissolute tyranny. Makes you wonder what Marcus thought about the future, about legacy facing all this.
Which brings us right back to Meditations, the philosophy that helped him cope. Primarily Stoicism.
Right.
But not exclusively.
That's right. Stoicism is definitely the main framework. You see its core ideas everywhere. But it was an era where philosophical schools weren't always rigid silos. People drew from different traditions.
Eclectic, almost.
A little bit, yeah. Marcus himself mentions learning from Severus, who was a peripatetic, a follower of Aristotle. So while he's deeply Stoic, he's absorbing ideas more broadly too.
Okay, so the Stoic core. What are the key ideas we see in Meditations that maybe we can still use today?
Well, a huge one is the concept of the logos, this idea of a rational, coherent force governing the entire universe.
Like universal reason. Or nature?
Exactly. Synonymous with nature, providence, sometimes even God, though maybe more impersonal. Everything happens for a reason within this grand, interconnected system. Understanding that helps put things in perspective.
So accepting what happens because it's part of a larger order.
That's a big part of it. The famous Stoic idea. Focus on what you can control, your judgments, your responses, your actions, and accept what you can't, because it's determined by the logos, by fate.
Like that analogy of the dog tied to the wagon.
Precisely. The wagon's going where it's going. The dog can trot along willingly or get dragged. Better to align your will with reality.
Makes sense. And Stoicism, as Marcus used it, had different aspects, right? Not just acceptance.
Right. Traditionally, it's broken down into 3 areas or disciplines. One is perception, seeing things objectively, without adding emotional drama or judgment.
Just facts.
Kind of. Then there's action, acting virtuously, justly, fulfilling your duties to others, contributing to the common good.
Your role in society.
Yes. And finally, will, which involves that acceptance of fate, but also cultivating the right desires and aversions, wanting only what's truly good, and avoiding what's truly bad, which for Stoics are primarily virtue and vice.
Perception, action, will.
Mm-hmm.
And Meditations isn't like a textbook explaining all this systematically.
Not at all. That's key. It's very personal. It's Marcus writing to himself. Reminders, aphorisms, little essays, commands.
Like mental exercises.
Exactly. He's practicing these principles, trying to embed them. That's why the form is so varied. Sometimes short, sharp commands, sometimes longer reflections, sometimes analogies.
And through all that, you really get a sense of him as a person, don't you? The imagery he uses.
Oh, definitely. It's full of nature imagery, isn't it? Ripening figs, baking bread, flowing rivers. Very grounded in the Mediterranean world.
Yeah, it feels different from, say, Plato's analogies, which often involve craftsmen or city life.
It does. It gives you a feel for his perspective, his connection to the natural cycle, which fits well with the Stoic idea of living according to nature.
And there's that interesting tension you mentioned, the impersonal logos versus his more personal mentions of the gods.
Right. Sometimes he talks about the gods in a way that feels more conventionally religious, thanking them for specific gifts, feeling their influence.
Which seems a bit different from just a purely rational, universal force.
It does. It suggests maybe a blending of his philosophical understanding with a more personal sense of the divine. Book 9, Section 40, has a fascinating little dialogue where he seems to be working through this very issue, divine care versus impersonal fate.
It makes him feel so much more human, wrestling with these big questions. No wonder the book still speaks to people.
Absolutely. It was written for himself in Greek, probably while on campaign, never intended for publication, yet somehow it survived.
How did it survive?
We don't know for sure, but it was preserved. Centuries later, people like the Emperor Julian knew of it. It wasn't widely circulated for a long time, but it endured.
And its relevance hasn't faded.
Not at all. As the translator Gregory Hays notes, maybe it's patchwork character. The fact that it is just personal notes is part of its power. It feels immediate, relatable.
So, even though he was an emperor thousands of years ago, his struggles, his search for meaning, for how to act rightly, it still resonates.
Deeply. We all face challenges, maybe not Parthian invasions or plagues,
Hopefully not.
but difficulties, frustrations, ethical dilemmas. Meditations offers this incredible toolkit for navigating it all with, well, more reason, more resilience, a stronger sense of duty.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've journeyed with Marcus Aurelius, the reluctant emperor, the dedicated student.
And explored Meditations, his personal guide, filled with that Stoic wisdom.
It's all about navigating life's chaos with reason, acceptance, and a real commitment to doing good, timeless stuff.
Truly timeless. And if you haven't read it or haven't picked it up in a while, we really encourage you to explore Meditations for yourself. You find new things each time.
Definitely. Okay, final thought for everyone listening. Marcus started his book by thinking about his debts and lessons, what he learned from others.
A powerful exercise.
So how might reflecting on your own debts and lessons, the people and experiences that shaped you, how might that shift your perspective today?
Something definitely worth mulling over.
Thanks so much for joining us on Book Decoded. We'll catch you next time.